in Brazil, where he also held positions as the head of the Department of Economics and the Associate Dean of the School of Economics Management and Accounting. Joaquim specialized in applying input-output analysis to environmental issues and sustainable development. He has published over 300 papers and supervised more than 35 PhD and master students. And he holds both the MSc, Master for Science, I believe, and a PhD in economics from University of Illinois. For Greg, he's a senior economist in the real sector division at the IMS Statistics Department. So he was previously the IMS real sector statistical advisor in Southern Africa for 3 years. So after 3 years in a similar position in the Pacific. Previously, Greg had worked for more than 5 years at the Australian Bureau of Statistics on the national account statistics, and more specifically on the supply and use and input-output table. So it's really our pleasure to have such a speaker that highly engaged with the input-output analysis as well as the compilation of the input-output table. So here I want to remind everyone that the webinar is going to be recorded and is going to be online after today's talk. So if you feel not very comfortable with the recording, you may leave now, but if you are okay, please stay and we will get started now. So now the floor is yours, Joaquim and Greg. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We start the presentation and then Joaquim will continue. So we, we both work at the statistics department in 2 different divisions. I work in national accounts and Joaquim is in balance of payments. We work together on input-output tables a lot, and we have a project, multi-regional input-output model that we will mention later on. So I will start with the presentation. We have 40 minutes, and then in the first 30 minutes, we will present the app, and then we give a demo, a live demo. So we explain the background why the MF is working on this topic, give some brief conceptual framework, a few examples why it's important on aspects like competitiveness, and then the future work, and we finish with a live demo. Sorry, I'm a little bit sick. So the carbon pricing, the objective is to internalize external costs of climate change, not reflected in market prices. That's what we call at the MF the macro critical issue. Carbon pricing is seen by member countries as a key risk in the transition to zero carbon economy. So we started looking at this aspect, trying to understand the industries most affected by carbon pricing. What's the impact on inflation, which is usually a key question for the authorities. The revenues raised from the carbon tax, the propagation of prices in the economy and through the global value chain, and the impact on competitiveness through international trade. So these are the questions we try to answer with this work that we have started. The MF has done a lot of work on carbon pricing for a long time. They have a model already in place, more sophisticated than what we are going to demonstrate. This is just based on input-output tables, multi-regional input-output tables. But the MF also is doing some work on other aspects of carbon pricing with a more sophisticated model. And the objective is that they will use the data that we produce as an input, but not the only input to their model. The data we use are from the OECD with 77 countries, 45 industries from 95 to 2020. We can, with this model, multi-regional, we can understand the price changes across industries to different institutional sectors like household, government, and the impact on imports and exports and competitiveness. So that gives an idea of the propagation of price changes in the domestic economy and in the global value, in the global supply chain. This is the conceptual framework, the price model, which is well known, where we use the price vector and the input-output coefficients. But this model that we have extends to other countries, as I explained, to understand how the price changes propagate to trading partners. So this is based on official national account statistics, like I said, OECD, sometimes adjusted for different reasons. Some adjustments have been made to the official data, not contingent on speculative changes in variables. So it's not a model with variables, it's just the input-output tables where we apply a price change in the taxes and look at the propagation through the input-output tables and the multi-country model. So the app which we have developed, I'm going to show at the end, is currently not available publicly, but we are working towards this objective. So I'll tell you when, but at some point this year, it will become publicly available. I'm just going to show an example with the 2020 data, applying a 75 US dollar per ton of greenhouse gas emissions. And this is the result, for example, for USA and Canada across different industries. So you can see that this is the price effect in percentage. We picked these two countries because they are closely integrated. As you know, USA and Canada have a lot of trade together, for example, on the motor vehicle parts, but many other aspects of the economy are closely integrated. And the impact for USA by industry is more, as you can see, on the electricity generation industry, while for Canada, because of the structure of the economy and the way the electricity is produced, actually the mining industry is more impacted in terms of price changes. So this is the result you can get from the app and from the model that we have, and you're going to see some similar results at the end. We can also look at different sectors, different components of the economy. A key question from policymakers is what's the impact on competitiveness and exports? You can see that in that regard, Canada would be more impacted. But also a key question is often the impact on inflation. So you can see the impact on the household sector. It's not exactly inflation, but it's close enough. Or capital formation or government consumption expenditure. There's a map also All this is available in the app, and you can download the data, and you will be able to download the data when it's available on publicly. At the moment, it's only available internally. So you can see, for example, here that the impact on import prices is affecting trading partners. For the US, you can see that Mexico and Canada are the most impacted countries. And for Canada, it's the USA, then Mexico, and some South American countries. So the different view here is on the tax revenues, which, as we saw before, for USA, the price changes are affecting more electricity, and Canada is mostly for mining. But this is actually the revenues from the tax. In that example, we've just applied $75 per ton of emissions across all industries. But you can decide which industries to target, and you can change of course, the price of the carbon tax per ton of emission. That's the tax to value added ratio by industry. Same idea, same results here. You can see the electricity for USA being most impacted and mining for Canada. I can't see the slide numbers. Oh yeah, I can. So the question is, so just a quick remark. I think this is not directly available in the app. It's a calculation that we've done, but I don't think the app provides this exact graph. The border carbon adjustment aims to keep competitiveness between countries. For countries where there's a carbon tax, the idea is to put an equivalent to the imports, and the app would give you some information on that through the impact on trade on exports. So the emission intensities are used in the model, and we can do some more sophisticated calculations. Again, this is not directly available in the app, but that's some results you could derive looking at the relative emission intensities for motor vehicles. This is just to show that we have quite detail in the app by industries. The countries in gray are not covered, but we intend to fix that to improve the coverage of the geographic coverage with more input-output tables in the project that we have at the IMF. And I think that's it for me. Joaquim, that's where you take over, I believe.
Yeah, okay, I can take over from that. Thank you, Greg. So actually, as Greg mentioned, this is basically what we have in the app so far, but there are a lot of other points that are important to take into consideration, to call attention to, and the idea is we move on forward to implement more features in the app. I'm going to discuss some of these features that to be thinking about implementing, and one of the things is about the effect of the time series analysis, because actually in the carbon price app you can choose a carbon price tax from 1995 until 2020, but actually they are current price, not constant price. So there is an issue in terms of course, the inflation and the price effect in the model can affect the change in the analysis. So you need to be very careful about that. So the idea is in the future maybe use a constant price model for the input-output table, but we discuss a little bit what's happening, doing some way you can maybe it's not the completely right way, but you can do some simulations using some price deflators just for having an overall idea. Another thing is how much of the carbon price actually is paid by import, by exports, and they actually associated with domestic and foreign demand. So this is a breakdown you can do with the model. And also another important topic is actually the impact of the carbon price on different income groups. But as you can see, we did some preliminary simulation, and of course what we found is that actually the low income group actually is the more affected for the carbon price, because actually they use more consumer goods, consumption goods, that actually has a greater amount of carbon embodied in the production of consumption goods. Greg, next one, please. So just for give you an idea of the model, what you did is a simple simulation. We just used the USA CPI deflator to actually see the $75 in 2020, how much would be worth in 95. So in 1995, it would be worth like $44 rounding. So we apply this carbon price to the system each one of the years, so to have an idea of this carbon price and impact on the households price effect on the households. So you can see that this carbon price, so in the model, you can see through time, like for Canada and from West, actually they have less impact on the inflation of the household. So like for the West, taking the West for example, in 1995, this carbon tax of $44 will have impact the household price of 3.4%, and in 2020, 1.8%. So it's what you can see that actually the effect of the same carbon price is having a less impact on the price of the household. It means that it's an indication that the intensity of emission has been reducing through time. Next, Greg, please. So the next one is in terms of how much of the carbon price is incorporated in the exports. I mean, the tax, the revenue that you get from the carbon price. And you can see that, like in the case of the USA, of the total carbon revenue of 379 billion, only 45 billion, close to 12%, are incorporated in the exports. And in the case of Canada, almost half of the carbon tax are actually exported, close to 50% are exported. So it's not paid by the domestic consumer, but it's paid by the foreign consumer. So actually, another thing in the model, when you do this kind of simulation, breakdown, working input-output model, actually you could see how much of the tax that you export actually come back to the imports in the country. So come back to the country through imports that incorporate the exports of the countries to other countries. So like the US exports like an engine to a motor in Germany, and actually import the car from Germany. So actually the engine that has the tax on it come back to the US. So you have a return of the imports, the tax in the import. So you could estimate that. That's the last column in the table. Next, please. So another thing we can estimate is in terms of which industry actually is passing the carbon price, because one thing is the industry that's paying the tax, so that's what we show in the app. So actually we see the industry that's producing, like the steel that is paying the tax, but actually the steel is not a final good usually. So usually it's incorporating other goods in cars, in buildings and machinery and so on. So another thing we can see is what actually is the industries that is passing the carbon price to the final consumer. So this is another dimension that you can get with this estimation. Next, Greg. So it's not yet implemented. Another thing is in terms of the impact on different households. So this is a simulation we did not with this data, but we did with the previous data from OECD that goes until 2018, and where we break down the households consumption by 10 income groups, 10 deciles. The first decile are the poorest households, the last decile are the richest households. So you can see that the impact over the poorest household, the first decile, is higher than the one it's like close to 2.2%, while for the average economy is 1.4%, and like for the for the richest decile is below that. So this is really some kind of compensation that's need to be done for the poorest household, and it's important to take that in consideration. Next one. So another implementation that actually we could work on is actually in terms of the pass-through of the carbon price. So the way the model is made now, is working now, actually you assume 100% pass-through of the carbon price to the other industries, but somehow that's actually not what happened in reality, because you have some price elasticities that actually will affect the way the price are passed to the other industries, and the impact on the economy will be different. And actually this is a way we can better adjust the model to reality, and you are trying to maybe in the next stage either to bring price elasticity or to allow the users to choose what will be the pass-through of the prices from one industry to another. Another thing that is not in there, but it's possible to do, is actually to see the impact on the price elasticity of exports and imports over the economy, and get some measure of competitiveness of the countries. Other point of the carbon price is in terms of linking that to the banking system, because actually the industries that will be more impacted by the carbon price probably will get a higher probability to have a higher default in the payment of the debt. So in that case, that might increase the exposure of these industries to the economy. So we are trying to link this carbon price in another model to link that with the borrowing capacity and payment of the industries and linking that with the bank system. And when we have further on sometime the Mario model that we are building for quite almost all the economies in the world, so it'll be possible to get a better idea of the integration of the other countries, as Greg mentioned. Next, Greg. So now Greg will make a live presentation of the model, so you can have an idea on the app works. Thank you.
Okay, so I think I have 12 minutes. So this is the app that we have available at the moment only internally. It's got a paper there, which I think was circulated on the conceptual framework. It has been circulated for this training today, or presentation today. It was presented at the last IIOA conference in 2024, which goes into more details about what we are discussing now. Some limitations, like what Joaquim was saying about current prices versus price adjusted estimates. All the limitations with the input-output model, like fixed coefficients, so there's no change of behavior. It's all based on the existing input-output tables. So that's discussed in that paper that I think you have. Just to mention quickly that the MF is doing more and more work on climate change statistics. There's a portal called Climate Change Indicators Dashboard with lots of data there, including emission intensities and multipliers. And then there's the app here, which we've been talking about so far. The MF, like I said, is working on climate change and carbon pricing. So the more famous, or the most famous tool is called the Climate Policy Assessment Tool, which is a different tool from this one. Like I mentioned before, it's much more sophisticated, looking at all aspects, many aspects of the carbon pricing. And they use input-output tables, but not as the only input like we do for this carbon price app. So I just show you quickly. I picked two countries. We picked France and Germany because of the integration, or the close relationship between the two countries. I just apply a carbon tax of $75 to all industries for each country. And then I run the scenario with this carbon price. To keep it simple, it's across all industries, but we could adjust that and change the carbon tax for specific industries, or even exclude some industries. So because of the emissions coming mostly from electricity generation, applying a carbon tax usually impacts electricity generation the most, except for, like we saw for Canada, and another example is France, where the electricity is not generated from fossil fuel, mostly in France from nuclear power. I think it's 70% of the electricity generated from nuclear plants. So it means for France that the main impact is not on electricity. But for Germany, it is. They use coal, I think, and other fossil fuels. So you can see when you apply this carbon tax across all industries, because we tax emissions, the main industry for Germany, the main impact is for electricity, 9.72%. That's for 2020, I believe. So we can look at different aspects of the price propagation. It would affect the exports and households differently in each country. As Joaquim explained, there's a feedback, which is what we're going to see. So because if you pick two countries which are closely integrated, they will exchange, and through the commodity trade, there would be an impact on their imports from carbon tax in their own country, because they would exchange with other countries. So different impacts you can see here for households and capital formation for these two countries. This is what we saw in the presentation, where you can have a look at the tax revenues by industry, by country, and then the propagation in the supply chain. So this is for France, the impact of a carbon tax in France on trading partners on their imports. So, like I said, the gray countries in gray are just available. That's why we don't have anything. But of course, as expected, it would affect main trading partners. And same for Germany here on the right. And then from this, you can download the data and do more sophisticated analysis, like some of them we had in the presentation. So if I click here, it will just download the data in an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah, so I think maybe I can stop here. So we have some time for questions. Did you want to add something, Joaquim, on this demo?
Yeah, I think you cover pretty much everything. Yeah, just the Excel file we are just showing, so people can download the data and see the details by industry and by country.
Yeah, so that's the spreadsheet that you can download with all the details. Yeah, so I stop sharing and move to the questions.
Okay, great. Thank you, Joaquim and Greg. So now let's get into the Q&A session. So we now stop recording. So for the Q&A session, we are now going to